Hey, everybody. I'm Drew.
Hello there. I'm Josh.
Welcome. I'm Dale.
Welcome to Sexy Nerd Science, Season 4, Episode 14. The big 414.
I don't know what I was going to do for teen. I was like,
Did you just
four, and I was like, teen. I don't know. But that kind of looks like I'm holding boobs.
Booby juggle for teen?
Who made horizontally striped polos?
Ugh,
Makes my
it's the worst.
my good titties.
Oh, no. All right. So we're back at a regular show. I know last week we did a kind of just a chillaxing show, but we're going to get right into it.
Did we launch last week's show?
It's somewhere in the ether.
It'll be before this one.
We'll get it out.
We don't know where it's at.
It's somewhere on this machine that is my PCU, my personal computing unit.
Sure.
But I want you guys to go check out our Audible link, SexyNerdScience.com/Audible, where you can get a free 1-month trial of Audible and 1 free audiobook in that month. You can check that out at, like I said, SexyNerdScience.com/Audible, or alternatively, Audible's link, audibletrial.com/SexyNerdScience. And that's all one word. And then you guys can help us out and kind of get. Did you ever get anything from that?
Nope.
No, we gotta fix.
We're probably not getting paid for that. We gotta throw that out there. Like, we have a link and it works. Like,
and people have used
sign up for it and it works. They're just not giving us anything for it. So,
all right. Well,
Audible, reach out to us.
Keep plugging it anyway.
Yeah.
Keep plugging it.
It's awesome. I mean, currently I just finished 2 solo books. One that takes place just before the Han Solo movie, and the other one that takes place, it's Solo and Lando Calrissian, called The Last Shot. It's a fantastic book. So Audible, you are my hero.
All right. Well, we're gonna get right into some sexy news here. Kind of short show for you guys, so don't hate us, but we got to get things going. So Dale, do you want to kind of hit us off with some sexy news? I know you put this in here.
Yeah, no problem. So the latest thing I saw on the forums or whatever is X-Men might actually be joining the MCU. Right now, Disney has an offer in to buy Fox, and if they do buy Fox, they'll, X-Men and pretty much all the jokes that Deadpool have been saying in the show, pretty much been able to. Pretty much that is that they'll be able to do Wolverine and Professor X and everybody actually in the MCU, and I think that'd be interesting. However, because of Josh's favorite company, AT&T, because of their recent victory over Time Warner, it might set a precedent for Comcast to make even a higher bid. So hopefully Comcast doesn't take it, because
what was Comcast's bid higher than Disney most recently that I saw?
It was 85. Or Comcast, would they buy?
No, I thought Comcast just Disney put the offer in for like 50 something, and then Comcast came in and said we'll do something else way higher.
I thought Comcast was I think Comcast almost matched the offer, but they said they were going to do it cash, is what I remember reading. Like, they were actually going to buy the company, not just for assets and things like that. Like, they were going to write them an actual legitimate check worth that amount of money that they could go take to the bank in cash if they want.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I last time I checked, I thought I saw that Fox did accept Disney's $71.3 billion offer. I thought I saw that was confirmed today, but I could be wrong.
It could be.
Disney ups its bid for 21st Century Fox to $71.3 billion, and that was 1 day ago.
But I don't know if they accepted it. I haven't seen anything in the past 2 hours that they accepted it.
I thought I saw something today, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was just that Disney or Fox got Disney's bid of the $71.3 billion. But this AT&T Time Warner thing, that was almost a nail biter there for a little while. So I thought that was something that was.
So there was an article that I see here. Sorry, Comcast, Fox, and Disney signed new merger deal rejecting Comcast's bid, and that was for the 71.3.
That's what I thought.
So yeah, it was Disney did 53, Comcast came back with 65, and then Disney came back with 71. So that's the order of operations for all that nonsense.
Yeah,
and it looks like they did stick with it.
Yep. Awesome. So that's actually great news. I think that Disney has been doing some awesome things with Star Wars and Marvel and everything, and I think Fox really needed that. I do know that some of the assets I thought were still kind of in limbo with Fox, like some of the brands. So I thought there was still some maybe possible things that we might not get the X-Men over fully. But I think that's still going to be worked out in the next coming days here.
Are there any good shows from Fox that actually stuck around to be like series that are in the MCU?
What do you mean? Like any?
Like they redid Fantastic Four twice. They redid. They had a Spider-Man, didn't they?
Fox did not have a Spider-Man. That's Sony.
Oh, I thought they did have a Spider-Man. Oh, that is Sony.
Yeah.
Well, they also had somebody else, and then they have X-Men, and they did the two, the young guys and the old guys.
Yep.
But overall, it's not really.
That was Sony in the beginning, and then Fox in the end, and then Fox again with that.
Gotcha.
Technically, Fox. I mean, like, so Deadpool is Fox's probably biggest moneymaker right now.
That lends to the character and the actor, in my opinion.
Oh, of course, for sure. And I know we're going to get right into that here in Nerdy News, talk about some of the stuff we've seen. But one of the things in, I guess, more recent news, since we're talking about this, we're going to hyphen sexy and nerdy news together like a pretentious little kid, hyphened last names. So
how is hyphen names pretentious?
Braxton Hicks.
There's a joke with it's Bo Burnham who says that like a kid with one out of X amount of kids with the initials ADD actually has it, and then he said like 12 out of 12 kids with the initials ADHD has an annoying self-righteous mother who wouldn't just shut the fuck up and take her husband's last name. Again, this is a Bo Burnham joke. This is not me, but it's one of those things where I was just like, oh yeah, self-righteous, pretentious mother. It was one of those jokes. Thanks, Bo Burnham, for getting me in trouble. But so I wanted to point out one of these things that I was coming across today. I don't know if it's necessarily true because it's one of those rumor blog things. They said that Solo, because of its poor performance in theaters, might have delayed the Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi movies because it just didn't do so hot. And that was one of the things that I mentioned earlier, that Disney's doing such a good job with these movies, including the Star Wars universe. I honestly don't like Solo has made like $300 million, like a little over that in like total box office, domestic and worldwide, but it's only been out for like 4 weeks. Whereas I compared it to another, Star Wars, not official saga, but like other Star Wars, Rogue One, and Rogue One made like $1 billion domestic and worldwide, 1.3 billion, I believe. But it had a runtime. It was like 20 weeks long. So we're only 1/5 of the total runtime for Solo. And like there's
1/5 of the same time.
Yeah. And there's still plenty of time for Solo to make money, I would say, honestly. Just like Rogue One. I think it's not going to make nearly as much money as Rogue One.
What was the box office like bump that Rogue One had on the first opening weekend versus?
It didn't even break any records, I don't think, when it came out.
Really?
I had 2 web pages pulled up before, but they're no longer on my phone.
I have some right now.
But it was showing that, one of the things I was saying, like Solo didn't technically do that bad. And I guess since we're kind of in nerdy news, like I saw Solo and I thought it was a good movie. Like it wasn't something that I think was like oh my God, I'm going to have that. But like, it was an entertaining, good Star Wars story, which is, I think, all it needed to be. It wasn't something that we were asking for as fans. I don't think, like, no one wanted a Han Solo movie, but what we got was, you know, good, you know.
See, and my take on any movie is, okay, so you have $1 million, like, these are just chump numbers, but if you have $1 million budget and you clear $1,001, I mean, it's worth it to do the movie, in my opinion.
I mean, that's a budget for like actually filming the movie. That doesn't mean paying actors and everything else, though.
Well, but budgets for filming movies, I mean, that includes actors' pay. The actors' pay doesn't come off the top. That's the whole point of paying the actors first, is because, so what you do is you pay the actors up front so that if the movie is a flop, they're not coming back to you for that. So if your budget's $1 million and you got 5 big name actors and they all want $200,000 a piece, you know, then I know the math is not.
I
have a list here of pretty much, and this the image I'm going to show on the screen is not sponsored in any way, but this is a day by day when they came out.
Yep, this is
of Rogue One and then Solo. And if you look at the numbers between Rogue One and Solo, it's a good half of everything until after the first weekend. It kind of starts to taper off to not half. But like, see these numbers. This is 16 million on Thursday the week after to 4 million. I mean, they're pretty much it's like times 4 the price, times 6 the price. So it's Solo was doing terrible in comparison. Like today's they don't have today's stats, but this is Wednesday. Yeah, they're finally leveling off to that point, but it's never going to catch up to Rogue One.
No, it would need to stay level for longer. What I'm saying is, at the end of 20 weeks, I would expect Solo to be at probably 70% of how much Rogue One made. But Rogue One was a movie that I think more people wanted to see than Solo was.
Also, you have the issue is a lot of those places will not run the movie if it's not bringing in the revenue. So because it's only at a third or fourth of the a quarter or a third of the revenue that it's making, you're not going to see a 20 week. You might see like a 12 or a 16.
Yeah, that's also a factor. But right now, Rogue One overall, since it came out, has made 532 million, where Solo has only made 200 million. Yeah. So the amount of money that they've made compared to what they've spent, it looks like if they run, The Force Awakens did 245 million. The Last Jedi, I don't have stats for that right now, but it looks like every movie they're making their quota. But they're supposed to make their quota within the first weekend, and that's the goal, and they did not do that.
And that's where I was thinking. That's where I was going with that. Is, if you make a movie for X amount of dollars and you clear $1 or obviously more above that, and I think it's realistically it's there's no risk in doing that movie, and it shouldn't weigh on the future, the other works in progress. Now, Josh saw the same post I saw because he commented after I did. But my issue was, we had this with the X-Men Origins, and we're going to kind of kick back to Sexy News, the MCU. X-Men Origins Wolverine wasn't that good. I mean, it didn't pan out, and they had the whole X-Men Origins lineup, like 6 movies for a lot of those X-Men Origins characters, or X-Men characters, for their origin stories. And after Wolverine didn't do as well as X-Men or X-Men 2 even, they cut that project. I mean, they kept Wolverine up, and they did the Wolverine movie, the solo films, but the Origins ones just stopped. And I think that's the same kind of model that they're trying to do with this, with the Solo or a Star Wars story run. Yeah. Now, that being said, like Josh said, I don't think it will affect it accurately. I don't think it should.
So Rogue One
either.
was the first one, though. Like, you got to understand, like, Rogue One was the first a Star Wars story. Then came Solo, and it was slated to be. We were supposed to be getting a Kenobi and a Fett and possibly a Yoda movie.
Kenobi and Yoda, I think, would be good. I don't think people would want the Boba Fett. But let me give you some stats about X-Men.
Dale, hold on. You have to. I have shoes that I bought that look like Boba Fett's scheme, and I'm not even a huge Boba Fett fan, and I don't wear them that often because I don't want to get freaking ruined.
I think so. No one was asking for a Solo movie. I think that was the thing, but fans have been.
I agree.
For a Boba Fett movie and a Obi-Wan Kenobi movie for years.
Yeah.
Since they announced this, like, fans have been like, "Why are you giving us Solo? We wanted Obi-Wan." And I think that's something that I think Disney will ultimately see, that like Obi-Wan's going to be more successful than Solo. It's just going to happen. I mean,
they should call it Kenobi too.
Oh, it's going to be Kenobi, but
yeah. So X-Men Origins Wolverine actually grossed lifetime 179 million, where X-Men First Class only did 146, so 30 million less. X-Men Apocalypse did 155, so 20 less. X-Men Days of Future Past kind of was a little bit new because they had the old guys and new guys.
Yeah.
What was X2, X1 and X2 though?
I will
I think it was
higher. Yeah, hold on. Let me just share it with you again.
Okay.
So this is the little list we have. The original X-Men did 157 million. X-Men 2 did 214. And X-Men Last Stand, which is X-Men 3, did the best at 334.
Yeah.
So if you were to look at the older X-Men characters instead of the newer X-Men characters, they were doing better because X-Men Days of Future Past have both, and that did 233.
Well, but the issue with not the issue, but the factor there is that when X1 was the first X-Men movie, I think it even came
one of the first superhero
I was gonna say
movies.
It even came before Iron Man, and then you got a little exposure with the first one, and then the second one had a lot of exposure, and then they started getting in. Those spin-offs are not going to draw in the crowd. I don't think they're going to draw in the same crowd as the.
But you also have to take an account population growth. From 2000 to 2016, we have grown as a nation by 1 billion people, and the United States itself is, I think, almost 20 billion, 25 billion.
All the people that all the people that weren't alive in 2006 are still not able to go see a movie by themselves. So that factor. I guess
I'm saying that because the population has increased even slightly, they should be seeing more numbers, not less, or at least static.
Well, and to be fair too, movies in general, the medium of going to an actual movie theater has slowed down significantly since even the 1950s. Like, movies have never been as popular as they were since back in the day.
I disagree with that completely. I think it's now more of a ritual to do the
issue is not whether or not it's the factor of there's so many that not everybody can do one every weekend, or sometimes multiple every weekend. So I think it's less of one and more of the other.
I think the hype's gone down too. Like, movies just aren't, going to a theater and watching a movie is not something, like, there's more people downloading movies now than ever before. There's more people watching exclusively Netflix or paying for video on demand, because a lot of the video on demand services have the movies out 3 weeks after they come out in theaters, like on the on demand service. Like, and there's even talks that when Disney does launch their streaming service, that Disney will actually have Disney original movies only available on their streaming service, no longer using a theatrical platform for it, which makes sense. Like, why have to pay a theater to show your movie when you have hundreds of millions of subscribers?
Is that how that works though? You pay a theater I thought the theater
takes a cut of the money that's made.
Well, yeah, but it's no. I mean, after the production value, it's no loss to you, especially if you're only bringing in, like, you stand to lose more. I think you stand to lose more money, hoping that some people would. I mean, I guess it's
A theater pays to have that movie at that theater. 9 times out of 10, that theater's paying out of pocket.
If you say no, if you say nobody's gonna get to see the movies in theaters, you have to pay for the streaming service. Then I guess that's their Achilles heel, or not their Achilles heel, but our Achilles heel for that is we'd have to pay to see the movies, which I mean, I guess you pay the fee, but if that's the case, I better get all the fucking damn movies.
And that's, I mean, it's going to need a video on demand service, I think, is what the transition will go to first before that. Because, like, if Netflix is like, hey, the next Star Wars movie, and I'm never going to do this, but they're like, the next Star Wars movie, instead of being released in theaters, is going to be exclusively on Netflix. Like, they're not going to make enough money off of it showing on Netflix with the 140 million subscribers that Netflix has. Like,
do movies? I'm not sure how Netflix works. Do movies that show up on Netflix? Does the original people who made the movie get a cut every time somebody watches it?
Nope.
Or is it just a one-time fee?
It's a monthly fee, I believe.
It's a monthly fee for it being on Netflix.
Yeah, they buy the rights to show the film for X amount of time, and then they can either renew those rights or not.
So Netflix pays the studio.
Yep.
A showing fee.
The studio.
There's no way they're going to make that money back then.
No. And that's why, but like, if Disney doesn't have to rely on people to go to movies and can use their own Disney app to get people to have traffic to it and stuff like that, that's going to be something that I think, honestly, I think Disney is going to be the first to try it, and we'll see how it works.
Mark Josh's words.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, I think so. Speaking of other movies, we all went to go see Deadpool 2. I think I saw it with Dale, and I think I saw it with Drew.
Yeah.
So, anybody I want to talk about Deadpool 2, because I think it was.
I rewatched Deadpool 1, and I thought Deadpool 2 was better.
Yeah, I Deadpool 2 was more comically inclined, and I mean, obviously I think Deadpool 2 was just on par with Thor or Guardians of the Galaxy 2, except for, like, as far as they had a bunch of jokes that they couldn't use in the first one, or they just had a bunch of jokes and then they built a movie around the jokes.
All the comic book jokes that were in the first one, they did callbacks. They did pretty much everything that you thought would be in a Deadpool movie. And then once they got the foundation there for the first one, they knew that they could actually go a little bit farther with the second one, and they did a good job, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think we talked a little bit about Juggernaut and stuff at some point in time, but Josh, go ahead and just take us off for kind of where you were looking at going with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I was exactly kind of what Dale was saying. Like, I think they treaded lightly. It's first rated R superhero movie. They don't know what to do with it, and the fact that it became so successful, and then with the success of Logan as well being rated R, they're like, okay, people want to see rated R superhero movies. Like, let's just use this to our full advantage. And then the fact that they joked about that in the movie was in typical Deadpool meta fashion.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I hope you didn't bring your kids to this movie. Like,
I told you
your
not
babysitter's doing a bunch of blow right now. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where it was like, yes, thank you, Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, for making such a good movie. And then Celine Dion to get on board with like the intro song, like, brilliant. Like, just Canadian legend. I loved it.
I liked it.
What Marty are you talking about?
So in the opening credit scene, you know how it was kind of James Bond-esque? That was so Celine.
Oh yeah, I get it.
Actual song for Deadpool, for that opening scene, and because she's Canadian and Deadpool's Canadian, and so is Ryan Reynolds. Like, it's one of those things where like that made it even funnier.
The only thing I had a beef with was Juggernaut. I don't see how they would have been able to do him differently. But
do you think they should have went with the X-Men version?
I mean,
because that actor currently is, I think available. I mean, I know he plays in, I think, a TV show on ABC right now, but
I'm not necessarily. I just don't know. Like I said, I don't know how I would have done it differently. I don't know if you make him a little thicker. The CGI with him and Colossus,
which was also joked about, which
Yeah.
was hilarious.
But the CGI, they just seemed long to me. That was the only, it drew me out of the fight, and I just kept thinking, God, these are it's like two stick figures fighting.
Really? I thought that, so I really liked how, when I think of Juggernaut, I think of the 90s X-Men cartoon. And in the 90s X-Men cartoon, he had the tiniest little legs and just this huge upper body, which it was disproportionately almost.
Mhm.
He was a Robotnik kind of
Yeah.
thing, Eggman. But when I saw that's how he was in Deadpool, I was like, oh man, he's just like the comics.
Well, I mean, I think he stayed the same width. I mean, obviously your shoulders are broader than your legs.
Well, most of us, Drew.
My shoulders are wide. Whatever. But
you're skinny. Enjoy it.
The Juggernaut was the only thing I had a problem with for the most part in the movie. I liked everything. I liked the little heartfelt bits even in there. I love Domino. Domino was great. I love the choice. I don't know if anybody saw it. This isn't what I said. I was saying I love the choice. I love the choice that she was a black actress. It's a different take on it because she's not traditionally in the comics and stuff. But did anybody else notice she had armpit hair? Yeah, I caught it.
Nope.
Oh, she got armpit hair. Yeah, and there was a whole article on the, she's just she chose, that was her character choice.
Yeah.
And I'm not being weird about it. I noticed it and I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, all the little things, I think that's what makes a Deadpool movie one of my favorite things, is all the little stuff that was inside there. But I really, really liked it. And I'm going to go see Jurassic World tonight, which is why we're wrapping this up quickly. So I'm excited for that one too.
So quick other nerdy bit here. Oh, did you want to talk to Solo for 2 minutes?
No, I mean, Solo was, like I said in the beginning, it was one of those movies where it wasn't something that I wanted. I didn't care. I wasn't begging for a Solo movie.
Yeah.
I really did Donald Glover's acting as Lando Calrissian.
I heard a bunch of people were up in arms because
he got the guy's voice very good.
Oh,
in
yeah.
my opinion.
I mean, Billy D's Lando's voice is something. So again, reading or listening to the audiobooks for it, listening to the last shot actually came out before Solo came out. So I was able to listen to half that book before the movie came out to kind of be like, oh, okay. And I thought, yeah, it was right there. I mean, the character was, I felt, done correctly. A lot of people are bringing up Lando's sexuality in it, which I don't.
Gotta fucking do that shit.
Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Anyway, go ahead, continue.
But I don't think that was anything that really was evident in the thing. I mean,
well, they were saying he was pansexual or something like that.
Yeah,
and I didn't pick up on it, so I don't.
I didn't either. I think the dude just likes capes.
The other thing, there's two things else I wanted to point out because we are doing nobody cares about spoilers today. Is what Dale?
No, he was just saying spoilers.
Nobody cares.
You were
about
like this. Spoilers and pointing your finger.
So the backstory about how Han and Chewie met was neat to see.
Yep.
I don't know if that's. I mean, obviously, I guess it's canon now because it's there. But if there was any other description in any other,
it was similar in Legends.
Yeah. But that, and then I just want to point this out: Han shot first.
Yes, that was, and the fact that they said that was a lesson that he needed to learn was to shoot first.
Yep.
I think that was a good callback to the whole Han shot first thing.
So
there is a big spoiler in it that I don't necessarily want to go into too much, I guess.
Which one?
Talking about old metal legs.
Yeah, old metal legs is in there. So Darth Maul makes an appearance.
Oh yeah. I didn't know he had metal legs.
Yes.
So this is post chopped in half.
Yep. So those of you that watched the Clone Wars knew that Darth Maul survives and ends up taking over crime syndicate on taking over a terrorist organization and a crime syndicate to overthrow the Empire. He's not on he is on Mustafar at the end, but or not Mustafar, Malachor at the end. But no, he what's it called? Black Sun. So there's a terrorist organization on Mandalore. And so, like, for a brief period of time, like, Darth Maul was the leader of Mandalore for a little while there. But then also those who watch Star Wars Rebels know that Darth Maul survives up until the rebellion. So there's, like, this middle ground where, like, you're just like, what the hell's going on with Darth Maul that you never hear about. So I thought it was fantastic that he was brought back. I think, people who are fans of Star Wars really need to get into everything Star Wars, the books, the TV series, the comics, the movies, the spin-off movies, the spin-off TV shows coming out, because it's all going to tie together just like the MCU does with the comic books, S.H.I.E.L.D., the Netflix TV series and everything like that. Like, it's something that if you know all that stuff, you're going to catch all the little things, and it just makes it so much more exciting. So
did you notice the 12 parsecs?
I did, and that was something I've always pointed out. Like, if you take a shortcut, then you're essentially closing a distance in less time, which again fixes that whole parsec thing.
But the thing is, though, in the original movies, they clearly, when you think of space, they didn't think of like, oh, there's a cloud I have to go around. It's a open, vast space. They thought it was going to be a time thing, and that's how they went around fixing it, in my opinion. I thought it was well done.
It was definitely like, hey, we need to fix this. But it was like in Legends even, so before this even came out, it was already fixed in Legends the same way. They're like, hey, this is actually a race over a distance, and like,
it's not
the
time.
people took and so he said, like, by doing it in less than that many parsecs, like, they're like, of course he finished first. But made a good thing there. Do we want to talk about this Nintendo Microsoft news?
We'll get into that just a quick roll over here. Nintendo and Microsoft are finally getting into the cross-platform gaming that has been, I guess, begged for among almost all non-competitive gamers. I mean, realistically, for like the last decade. So for Minecraft, crossplay will be available. The trailer shows, half Xbox, half Nintendo Switch controller, also with the gamepad and everything. So, and I guess a bunch of Sony fans are butthurt. Or I guess or a bunch of fans are butthurt at Sony and sad.
Who plays Sony games?
People who like God of War.
I only play God of War. I don't really care.
That's honestly the only thing. That's the one title from Sony that I wish I
hear good things about that one.
It's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's get out of nerdy news and jump into sciencey news. And first we'll do this next bit, and then we'll do blind science.
Oh my goodness. There's a sciencey topic that we need to talk about in here as well. That's not this topic. So just real quick, Donald Trump commissioned the Space Force.
Oh yeah.
I want to know if you wanted to talk about that.
I hate it. I really do. I think we need to spend that money, give it back to NASA. They are really good with their budget. Like, there's nobody trying to attack us from space.
Here's the thing, though. Halo.
Shut up.
Here's the thing, though.
NASA could.
I mean, it's one of those things that could happen in the future, or that it's something that might happen, or we could go down that path in the future. But it just seems like he wants it for no reason other than it sounds cool.
Pretty much. Like, he's like, this sounds cool, let's do it. And I'm just like, that's a waste of money.
Yeah.
It's also another way to funnel a lot more. Like, so now he's asking for more money to the military's budget, even more money to a military budget to make this new branch that's not in there.
Which means they're just going to fund future weapons or research on future
but again,
weapons.
like, that's what NASA was for. Like, NASA was literally like, NASA was not necessarily some civilian run organization.
North American Space. I can't think of something funny.
Good. It is. I mean, it was NASA was started to beat the Russians into space in order to make sure that they weren't spying on us covertly,
via
and also
space.
They weren't going to drop nukes on us through space. Like, that's what NASA was. NASA's job was.
NASA was. We should make those shirts. NASA, the original Space Force.
I would. I mean, because
let's do it.
NASA's budget is 1/1000th of what it was in its prime.
So let me read this to you, because this confuses the crap out of me. This is from Wikipedia. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, is an independent agency of the executive branch of the United States federal government, responsible for the civilian space program, as well as astronauts and aerospace research. What? How can you have an independent agency be part of the U.S. government, part of the executive branch? I'm assuming military or that style of executive branch, and also be part of the civilian space program.
U.S. Post Office.
That's a good way. Okay, that's the same thing.
I mean, it's the same kind of thing as the U.S. Post Office, the EPA. But
Separate but equal.
No, not even that. It's just like it's a government-funded organization for the people, but it's
when
not
did
a military
NASA? When did NASA put anybody that was just like, "Hey, I want to go into space"?
Lots of times, like most of the astronauts were like, people are like, "Hey, I want to go into space." I mean, granted, they were fighter pilots at first, but
yeah. So, but like, there's nobody that like walk. Oh, I guess the teacher didn't really got blew up, huh?
Bring up Challenger into this. Challenger
I
had
mean,
a couple civilians actually.
Yeah, so I mean, it just proves me wrong. All right, so the U.S. Air Force commissioned SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rocket to push their Space Command satellite 52 into orbit.
Yep. So this is another thing of even though NASA is a government funded project, NASA technically isn't putting up rockets into space right now. They're using private business for it. So SpaceX is one of those private businesses. This isn't even the first Air Force thing they're doing. So it's something that I'm really excited for too, because this is another Falcon Heavy launch, which means we have another, like, if the Falcon Heavy launch goes correctly, then we're going to have another Falcon Heavy landing, which would be like...
Well, they actually said in the post I read that there's going to be other Falcon Heavy missions before this one.
Yeah.
So it's not even like I don't say that big a deal. I thought it was unique that, because pretty much the U.S. government has been almost against SpaceX from the beginning, or independent companies. And now they seem like, yeah, I guess you make it cheap enough where we can do it.
Which is the goal.
Yep.
Well, but there's also this note that was in here: the Air Force will pay $130 million for the launch, higher than the standard rate for the Falcon Heavy, due to the military's mission assurance requirements. So it's cheaper, but they're paying more. So what's the deal there?
They're paying more than the civilian rate because they're gonna require SpaceX to do more work.
All right, so let's get into blind science here.
Blind science.
Blind science.
Blinded by science. Do it to it, Lars.
All right, so Today's blind science question for Josh. Dale, did you look that up a little bit?
A little bit.
Okay. All right. He doesn't have fact check, or at least do a little bit more than me. But today's topic in question, Josh, is: can you tell me when X-rays were discovered?
And also just do a little bit of background of like radiography.
Yeah. So, oh man, I gotta think like history of science here. Like, are we talking like man-made, like making your own X-rays and like using them, or are we talking about like, hey, there's this thing, and there's these waves coming out of the electromagnetic spectrum that
using them?
Okay, because I can think that the discovery of X-rays is probably earlier than this, than the actual like usage of them. But I'm going to say
a lot of dead air, Josh.
I know. I'm trying to think. Late 1890s.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah, so late 1890s, it probably had to do with some object that was radioactively decaying into X-ray particles, and they were using it to develop like negatives for film. Just like when you get your body X-ray, you develop them on film the same way. I would assume it would be done for the same thing. It wasn't until later on, like Rutherford experiments, where they were actually using charged particle rays to shoot at atoms.
So this says that the X-rays were found.
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you have a name?
A name for the person who found X-rays? I'm gonna say he was Italian, but I have no idea.
I'm gonna give you a letter R.
It's not like I don't even recognize it, so I don't think it's that well known.
Yeah, I mean Rutherford's the only thing I can think of, but he didn't do
Rutherford B. Hayes.
Is it Rutherford B. Hayes?
No.
It's.
I was like, that's weird.
Wilhelm Conrad Roentgen.
Roentgen.
No, Roentgen.
Roentgen. Okay.
It's with an accent, so Amanda could probably pronounce it because it's German.
Yep.
But he was accredited discovering the X-rays in 1895. When he was systematically studying them, he observed their effects, gave them their term X-rays. They were found emitting from Crook tubes. So we kind of experimented with the Crook tubes. And Crook tubes are an early experiment electrical discharge tubes with partial vacuum.
So like early capacitors, like vacuum tubes.
That's what I'm thinking. It says it's a cathode rays.
Okay, so
cathode ray tubes. Yeah. Tube TVs used.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like based on the pictures. But point is though, some of those were emitting some stuff that he couldn't figure out, and he looked into that, and that's how he figured it out. However, could you tell me at which wavelength X-rays are at? I think that's more interesting.
X-rays are, I'm going to say 1,500 nanometers. No, it's even bigger than that.
Yeah, it's smaller.
It's smaller than that? X-rays are on the... They're smaller than nano? I thought...
All right.
X-rays were larger.
You said 1,500 nanometers, right?
Yeah, I thought they were larger than light waves.
X-rays and gamma rays are electromagnetic radiation of exactly the same nature as light, but of much shorter wavelength.
Shorter.
Of visible light is
okay. So they're on the other end of the spectrum. Sorry.
Yeah.
6,000 angstroms, while the wavelength of X-rays is on the range of 1 angstrom, and that of gamma ray is 0.001 angstrom.
It's actually 0.01 to 10 nanometers.
To 10 nanometers. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking. like alpha and beta rays, I guess.
30 pentahertz to 30 exahertz.
Interesting. Yeah. I always like, I keep like every time I see like a electromagnetic spectrum, I always like remember like, okay, so here's like the order in which they go, but sometimes the orders are flipped from like smallest to largest or largest to smallest, and I can never remember which one is which.
Yeah.
Like green is 400 nanometers ish.
So
from there,
radiography altogether. What is radiography?
That is studying the science of charged particles and like not necessarily charged particles, but emission spectrum, like emission spectra, and like finding out like how they react with different things. Because at the time, like we didn't quite understand what radiation was, and now we know that it's usually alpha, beta particles being released from atoms that are.
You're giving me the definition for radiology.
Ooh.
I'm talking about radiography.
Is radiography just recording of radiology?
Short of, it's the imaging technique for X-rays.
Yeah. So it's the recording. Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Well, we go 4 for 4 for that one.
I think the amount of information that he gave was over 50% correct. I'm giving it to him only because of the date he got it. He got it within 10 years.
The late 1890s. That's
even 10 years. It's like, I mean,
that's literally 1895 to 1899.
And that's what I'm saying. I was that impressed with. That's why I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah.
But with the nanometers, that was really where I wanted you to shine, and you failed me. Yeah. But it's okay. I'm going to give it to you anyway.
All right, so 4 for 4, Josh, on blind science. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for us on this show. This month's Sexy Nerd of the Month is going to be YouTubers. We're not going to pick anybody specific. We're just going to touch on a few channels that each of us like throughout the month. So we'll be back with those next week. We do have to get going, but you guys can check us out. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe, and hit the little bell on YouTube. And then you guys can listen to us at SexyNerdScience.com, SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, and Podcast Addict. And then, as always, we have T-shirts on Teespring that do campaigns consistently, so you can always go get a T-shirt there. Like the ones Dale and I are wearing. Josh is lame. And like always, you guys can check us out at SexyNerdScience.com/Audible for that free Audible trial and one audiobook download. We're doing this thing. I can't do it because I'll hit my mic.
That's what I just did.
Yeah. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Be a little bit more consistent. We are, probably 288 followers away from our goal for the Facebook likes this year. So if you check us out and you like us please.
Tell your friends.
And tell your friends, share us, and we'll catch you next week.
It would be 218.
218
or 270. 278.
What did I say? 88?
Yeah.
I messed the bed.
Give us 288. I don't care.
Yeah, that puts us at 1,008.
Yeah.
18.
1,000 something.
10.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.